There is a question from Gustav. If I can leave one of the panel to answer that one, I think we'll move on to the next presentation. And this one is from Kat, who's in the room with us. Kat, I don't have anything to introduce you with. I don't know if you want to give yourself a quick introduction, but I might as well plug this brilliant text whilst you're thinking about what to say. It's Kat's latest book. Very good. Kat, is there anything you want to say while I set up the video?
I don't know actually. I think my approach to photography is in a therapeutic way. The video is about where it all began, and I'm very passionate about the felt sense and coming out of our heads and dropping into our body and using art to reflect back who we are, what we need, and what might change as a result.
Superb. Okay, so we're going to have Kat's video and then we'll go into Louise's video, and then again we'll pause for any questions. So enjoy.
How are you feeling?
Yeah. I'm feeling that this is quite important. This is really important, doing this, filming this, because this is all about the start of my journey and how my life has been divided pretty much into two parts. And so the enormity of it kind of hit me last night when I was printing some images out and having a look at the shoot where this all began. And I found it quite overwhelming actually, because the woman who I'm going to talk about, or the pictures we're going to talk about, I owe her everything.
How did this all come about? How did this start?
So this all started in 2018, April the 18th, 2018. I had just finished a year-long bout of talking therapy after being in talking therapy in and out for 25 years, not really getting anywhere. And I'd finished another bout of it and I was absolutely exhausted. I was so tired of talking, but I wanted to continue the digging that I was doing, because what I'd done is I'd understood through the last lot of therapy, I'd understood my why. I understood why I was depressed, but I still couldn't stop myself from being depressed. You know, awareness is everything, but I was still caught up in the darkness and this lack of worth and the I'm shit and everything I do is rubbish and all those kinds of things. I just couldn't get out of that hole. It was like I was scraping the sides of a slippery ditch and I couldn't get out. There was nothing to hold on to. And I decided that I wanted to continue doing some work, but do it in a creative way and to stop talking, basically, because I was so bored of talking and not really feeling like I was getting too far. And so it was almost a bit like a self-challenge, I suppose. I decided that I wanted to look myself in the eye. I wanted to see if it was as bad as it felt. So I decided to sit with my most difficult emotions and photograph what was there. And I'd had this idea in my head for an image that I wanted to capture. And it was me with barbed wire wrapped around my head, feeling trapped, feeling imprisoned, feeling just so tangled and caught in my depression for so long. I mean, as far back as I can remember, really. And so I did the shoot. It was really, it wasn't easy, but I sat, I cried, I screamed, I shouted, I was still. It was really cathartic in that sense. And then I kind of packed it all up and downloaded my images, and I hadn't even thought about what I was going to see. And what I saw really, really surprised me, because I didn't see a woman that I didn't like. I didn't think she was ugly. I saw a woman who was in agony, and the only person that could help her was me. It was like she was asking me, and it was so profound and so transformative. Just those few initial minutes when I was looking at the beginning of my gallery, and it absolutely changed everything. Those vital inches between my head and the screen and what I was looking at gave me just enough objectivity to grant myself compassion for the first time in my life. And what I didn't realise was that I was doing therapeutic photography on myself. I was using the images in a deeply and profoundly therapeutic way. And it was really quite unbelievable. And every day I would wake up thinking, oh, maybe I'll wake up today and feel shit again. And I never have done.
What do those images, the first ones, mean to you now?
So I use them every day. I use them when I feel that I'm slipping a bit, or I'm struggling, or I just need some assurance of who I am. I need some confidence. And those images were such a pivotal moment because they help me make sense of my past up until that point, who I was in that present moment, and then who I am moving forward. So my images give me choice. They go, look, this is who you are. You can't deny who you are. What's your choice now? I had a client do a Facebook post recently. It's about 5 years since her face-to-face shoot. And I didn't know she was going to do it. She posted one of her images with some text that basically said, I can't believe how much I've done since this shoot, and I can put it back. I can pinpoint the moment that my life changed, and it was during her shoot. The longer I do this work is the more I'm learning about how and why it works, and I'm constantly amazed at how and why it works. There was some research done a while ago where people were shown pictures of people they knew for varying degrees of time, and even for a very short space of time, a fraction of a second, there were neuro things firing. That's the technical way. Neuro things were going on.
The neural pathways were lighting up.
The neural pathways were lighting up, which indicated recognition, even from a very short space of time. So what that opened up for me was this really exciting potential about the work that I do, particularly in portraiture. When you see an image of yourself, even just once, even very, very briefly, your brain has registered it and you will be processing it at some level. That's where real change is for me. It's that visceral, extraordinary connection to your own image. I mean, it's just amazing. When you see you can't unsee what you've seen in yourself. And when you see yourself in that way, every image of you then becomes something different. You've granted yourself compassion. I help my clients reframe how they see themselves. If there's an image that they find difficult looking at, then we talk about that, and we dig into who is in the image, who is there, what is she saying to you, what does she want to say to you, what's her gift, what would you say about her if you didn't know her. All these questions I ask my clients, and it helps them just see themselves from another perspective, and they are amazed at who is there. And all I'm doing is showing them. I'm not creating who they're not. I'm helping them to take off all the hats that they put on, that society makes them put on, and help them see themselves for who they are, because they're incredible. There's so much emotion in photography that we can sit with, emotion from our past that we make sense of in the present, and that can help inform our future. So using photography to reflect back what's going on for us, suddenly you have these kind of eureka moments, like, oh my God, I'm feeling that. I didn't even realise, because we can push down, we can ignore, we can dissociate, we can just avoid how we're feeling. And that's fine, and that's really helpful. in a lot of instances. But if we're continually doing that, then we're missing something that our body's trying to tell us. To do this work, it's my life's work, it's my purpose, it's why I'm here. It's profoundly moving for me in every shoot I do, every conversation I have, every gallery viewing I do, just affirms that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And I just go goosebumps like I just have done now. It's just wonderful.
Superb. That was really interesting. Thank you very much. Kat, there's a question from Sissy. I don't know if you want to answer that just now while I get the next video lined up. And it's one that we've probably had a chat about anyway, because I know that it comes up quite a lot when you're talking about therapeutic photography, and that borderline between when something's therapeutic and when counselling is required. So I don't know if you wanted to comment or say anything about Sissy's comment there on the questions.
I think that's something that I feel in the moment and will bring up with the client if I feel it's necessary. I'm also a great believer in stuff doesn't come up if it's not ready, and I'm able. I've been in and out of talking therapy for 25, 30 years, and although I'm not trained as a counsellor, I have a huge amount of experience, so I can hold my clients in a lot. But where I feel it's necessary, I will signpost them. But I do feel that we are very well equipped, and we don't give ourselves enough credit to being very well equipped to dealing with stuff as it comes up. So I don't know if I quite answered that question, but I think it's a fine line. It's a dance. It's good communication with your client, and it's brutal honesty with what I know I can help them with and what I know I can't.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yep. Gustav, we're not ignoring your question. I will try and answer that in due course. But thank you for that, Sissy. And what we'll do now is we'll go on to watch Louise's video. Now, Louise is joining us from the Philippines. I believe it's very late or early, late in the day or early in the morning. And in the video, Louise inquires about how one's heartbreak can potentially metamorphosize into an initiative of the heart, as she shares about discoveries, challenges, inspiration, and possibilities around an initiative called photobiography work, a practice of looking into, reflecting on, and making sense of one's life through mindful, contemplative, and heart-guided photography. Again, as Ruth offered us a mindful moment at the start, in the middle of this presentation, there'll be an invitation to participate in a guided meditative visualization practice in photobiography work. So feel free to discern your participation, and at any point, you may also opt out of the practice as well. But meanwhile, it all begins with what may be called a love story.
This is a love story. The story began with a question handwritten on a small piece of paper and thrown into the campfire. How can I make the invisible visible? It is through this question that I met someone whom I shared a bubble with. Someone in that same campfire circle who mirrored myself to me in quite interesting ways. But he had to leave. Deep waters set us apart, but somehow destiny played its part and we met again. When we did, the love story ended. On that day when we met again, I found myself standing before this person once more. He explained things, and I felt a strong impulse to disappear. Gradually, both the image and the voice of this beloved person dissolved into a blur. I grabbed my camera and walked away from him. There was no destination in mind. I was on my own. I just had to walk with the camera. Was it anxiety, rejection, pain? It took more than a decade to name it, to acknowledge what it was. Heartbreak. As I was walking, my senses heightened. An image up ahead began to form and became clearer and clearer. Seeing this image moved something within me, and in the heartbeat there was a pause. I committed to the image, and the shutter sounds echoed in the fields. When we met again, the love story ended, or so I thought. Apparently, a love story is just beginning. A love story of the heartbroken self and the heart-guiding I. In the succeeding years, hints of pain lingered, yet I continued to carry the campfire question. I continued to photograph. Photography I have come to know as an educator of the will, training me in making decisions and in developing inner practice, balancing it with outer work. I continue to meet the I. The I have come to know as beyond personality or identity. It is in touch with creativity, vastness, trust, courage, and intuition. It has the capacity to witness with empathy. It can guide me back home to where the heart feels settled, to where there is a sense of oneness and wholeness, of healing. What does the I look like? Is it even possible to photograph the I? The I may be invisible but is ever present. Perhaps it is the relationship of the I and the heartbroken self that makes a picture possible, that makes healing through photography possible. In hindsight, when in moments when the heartbroken self goes autopilot, it is not left on its own. There is still guidance amidst all. This guidance has an element of inner knowing. Listening to I Heart guidance has helped me practice discernment in photography to be able to photograph what is truly essential. It has come to my awareness too that in a way, the camera is like the heart. In the camera, the shutter opens for light to enter, for the world to enter. Similarly, where there is heartbreak, where there is wounding of the heart in relation to separation, disconnection, hopelessness, guilt, or rage, whether in the personal, the societal, or the spiritual spheres of life, there appears an opening, a possibility to meet the world, to see the world in you. Someone once said, "Where the pain is, that is where the work lies." Pain is perhaps a way of opening up to the world and of meeting one's life work. If this is through photography, so be it. Perhaps, like questions, the world reveals to us the ones hidden when we look with intention, with devotion. I have come to realize that when I begin to open up, allow and trust the gentle guidance of the heart, it is possible to arrive at a place where I can meet the photographic pause and that resilient, unbendable aspect of my being human, accompanying me in such brokenness as I return to wholeness, to who I truly am. So, if to heal is to make whole again, how can photography participate in making it happen for a person, a community, a culture, a country, for the world? Can photography mirror the images living within so that we may understand ourselves and one another? To approach these questions, I am developing an initiative called photobiography work, a practice of looking into, reflecting on, and making sense of one's life through mindful, contemplative, and heart-guided photography. It is about co-creating a harmonious relationship with the dark and light in life, working with outer and inner images. It is about making visible the coming together of the past and the future into the present, into the photograph, into the photographic practice. It needs the capacity of the eye for objective and empathic self-reflection. It entails work, it requires will, it upholds freedom, it is powered by love. At this point, I would like to invite you now to experience a mindful and heart-guided photobiography work practice with visualization. You may choose to participate by following the guidance or in your own way, connecting with your mind, heart, and gut as you breathe. If something comes up that is beyond what can be managed at the moment, feel free to pause, drink water, or discern the moment and take care of yourselves. So, Coming to a sitting position that is comfortable and awake, you may gently close the eyes and become aware of your breathing. Focusing on the breath where it is available for you at the moment. The nostrils, the chest, the heart, the belly, or the limbs. And wherever you are focusing on, allowing the awareness to anchor to the breath, to the present moment. And now, I am inviting you to bring to awareness the presence of photography in your lives. If it is possible, perhaps bringing to awareness the first time you met photography or a moment in time wherein photography had a significant place in your life. Perhaps an image comes to awareness. It can be of a place or of people, of objects. Noticing the details. Perhaps a thought or an impulse to act makes itself known. Breathing them in and acknowledging whatever is showing up and letting the images come when they come. Letting them go when they go. A feeling may arise. So tuning into how this might be showing up in the body. If possible, naming this feeling. Overall, bringing awareness to this photographic encounter. On an out breath, gently letting go of whatever showed up in your awareness, and if it is possible, bringing in a sense of gratitude for what has been made visible, invisible, and everything in between. Now returning the focus to the breath, noticing one's breathing. And bringing this sense of wakefulness, this awareness, and the sense of the present moment to the rest of your night or day, and letting go of this practice, opening your eyes if they have been closed, and returning to our virtual space. Welcome back, everyone, and from here, you can perhaps bring the practice further to photography and seeing what shows up in your photos when you bring awareness to the presence of photography in your lives. This is the invitation of photobiography work, as the whole picture includes 1, the visible, 2, the invisible, and 3, everything in between. How might a photographic experience be designed to allow the heartbroken or any person to freely and creatively navigate the relationship of these 3 elements, through which one can begin to recreate the image of one's life and renew one's relationship to one's life story and the story of humanity. I hope to prototype photobiography work sessions this year, and I invite the willing and called and ready to journey with me.
Thank you. Oh, I feel so relaxed now. It's lovely. Okay, we've got some time for questions. If anybody on the panel would like to ask each other questions, or anybody from the attendees would like to ask a question. I did notice that there was questions coming in, but they were being answered during the presentations. But yeah, Louise, is there anything that you would like to add about your presentation? It was wonderful. It was a lovely moment of tranquility.
That's about it. But I would like to say thank you too for the feedback and the thank yous I see in chat. And yeah, the invitation is to try to practice it again. I mean, you can watch the video again. You can journal, you can email maybe if something comes up with you and you'd like to share it. And I'd also like to thank Ruth because I actually trained under her mindful photography program as well. So that's quite an inspiration.
Excellent. That's great. Somebody's asking if there's a website to learn more.
It's yet to come, so email for the meantime.
Okay. Thank you. Great stuff. And Kat, there were some really nice reactions to your video as well, and I think they were both very creative. It was lovely to watch and engage with both of your presentations. So thank you very much for that. Any other questions before we move on to our next presentation? I see Gustav's question's still there. I was thinking about that, and I don't think that cameras are necessarily there to help us connect with nature, but I do think they certainly help. And when I'm working with my groups, what I notice is that there's this ability to slow down, to notice the environment in a way that you probably wouldn't notice if you were walking past it. So if you're passing it on a daily basis, you're not going to spend as much time as you are with a camera engaging with it and noticing new things. And that's one of the comments I regularly hear, is that I'd never noticed that before, because you are encouraged to look at the world and your environment in a different way as well. So I think, yes, there's absolute benefit in experiencing nature directly, but I think having a camera with us or a photographic device helps us experience nature differently, and it helps us focus in a different way and notice things that we might not have noticed before. So that would be my feeling. I don't know if anybody else from the panel would have a different approach or something to add.
I've been trying to respond in writing to Gustav's question, and it's such a big question that I keep kind of getting distracted, and so I'm glad for the opportunity. I mean, I think, I mean, this is such a massive subject in itself, but I often, it's about connecting with nature, but it's really learning from nature, you know. I mean, it's like what Neil was just saying. If we just keep rushing around all the time, we miss so much. And by that slowing down, by the looking, and maybe looking at the same thing on a very regular basis as well, and seeing how things change over time. I mean, you might even, you know, you might want to do it now. You know, you might be sitting somewhere where there's a window, and you might look out of your window and see that there might be nature, there might not be, but there might be nature. I mean, where I am now, I'm looking out, I've actually got flowers on my windowsill, but looking through, there's a tree in the neighbour's garden, there's also a bush in my garden, there's a massive tree further down the road, there's the sky, you know, there's the weather, it's changing all the time. And it's that thing of noticing the movement, noticing the changes from morning till night, noticing the changes from one day to the next, from 1 month to the next, and then through the seasons. Nature has so much to teach us, you know, thinking about what Andrea was talking about earlier as well, about metaphors, you know, that nature can teach us so much in a symbolic and metaphorical sense, about resilience. You know, for me, walking in nature is often about needing courage and resilience to kind of get through my day. And also what Mandy was saying about lockdown. I mean, the same. It was, you know, for so many people, we were automatically going on walks in nature every day because we were being specifically encouraged to do so.
Yeah.
And it made such a difference to people's mental health. But I also think it's that thing of, you know, whether or not we have a camera, and for me, it's about the intention again. So I can go for a walk with the intention of either taking my smartphone or my camera or both, or I can go with the intention of not taking a camera and just using my eyes. You know, sometimes it's really about the noticing. It's not necessarily always about the actual photography itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also I think it's really, really important. And I mean, this applies to so many people. You know, we can't assume that everyone has access to nature.
No.
I mean, I'm very lucky in that it's here on my doorstep. But, you know, I've just come back from a very, very busy city where, I mean, it was hard to actually find evidence of nature other than the stray cats in the streets and the dogs everywhere and the, you know, little snippets of grass. And you know, and that is so many people's reality. You know, there might be a tree here or there, but actually vast expanses of land, like miles and miles and miles on end, where there's very, very little nature. And for so many people, they can't access nature.
Yeah.
I think that it's also really important to remember that not everyone feels comfortable in nature. A lot of people are afraid of nature, and sometimes for very good reason. You know, there's people experience trauma by natural disasters, which are increasingly happening around the world. So you know, I've worked with people who's like, well, actually, I don't want to go to the sea. I'm terrified of the sea, you know? So it's all these things I think we need to, you know, when we're working with other people, let alone ourselves, we have to be really mindful of, it's not you know, nature connection and engagement. It's the engagement that's the thing, but it's not that obvious.
Yeah.
Time.
Andrea, you wanted to say something?
Just to go off of what Ruth was saying, that, you know, it doesn't have to be in nature where we find that beauty.
Yeah.
I was working with some students just yesterday when the weather, it was too cold to go outside, and it was their day with the cameras. And I was showing them, you know, look at the reflection in this metal pipe of the colors, you know. I mean, it's really just about looking in unusual places for that beauty as well. So if you don't like to go out in nature, if you don't have that, then, you know, there's beauty so many places. It could be the way the sun reflects off a window in your house, and it captures something. So I think it's important to encourage people to just find the beauty and find what makes them feel good where they are.
Thanks. Yeah. So there's another couple of comments. Emma Louise is asking about contact details, websites, social medias. Absolutely. What I'll do at the end, probably the next day or two, once I've edited the video together of the entire symposium, is I'll share the links, and I'll share the individual videos as well, and on all the presenters' individual videos, they've got their contact details on there as well. And I'll also try and compile a list of the presenters as well, so you've got their access to their websites details as well. I should also add that we had quite a lot of applications to present, and there was a number that we thought were so good that we wanted them to submit a recording anyway, even though we can't play it tonight. So they'll be released in due course as well. So you're going to have access to at least 6 more presentations. Just to tell you who they are, we've got George Perry, Ivana Dostalova, Kerry Barrett, Uzka Arslan, Rosalinda Chavez, and Trupti Magetta. They've all done presentations for you on their aspects and avenues of therapeutic photography as well. So I'll be sharing links to those videos in due course as well. So hopefully you'll get a bumper crop of emails with some more useful information. So hopefully that helps, Emma Louise. Okay, I can see Louise is typing a response to Luisa Preda. Anyone else, feel free to help Luisa Preda sort of think about mindful photo practices that are taking place in big cities. And what I'll do is I'll start the next presentation, because we're going to go off to the Netherlands now, and we're going to hear from Andre. Andre, you didn't send in anything to introduce yourself. Do you want to say anything about yourself before I play your video?
Yes, now I'm Andre, and I'm indeed from the Netherlands, and I'm working with in the youth psychiatry, and there I have using photography during therapeutic settings and sessions. Sorry, and I'm working with youth around 14 till 18 years old, my background is that I'm a social worker and I'm a photographer.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to play your video, and after yours, Andre, we're going to hear from Natalie in Australia. So we're certainly getting around the world at the moment.
Hi, I'm Andre Potters and I'm very pleased to be here and that I get the opportunity to have this presentation for you. And I hope that you will like it and maybe get a little bit inspired. First, I will tell you a little bit about myself so that you know who is talking with you. I live in a small town called Voorschoten in the Netherlands. It's close to Den Haag. I live there with my wife and 2 children. I studied social work and I worked for many years with young people and older people. Then I felt the need to change and I studied anthropology at the University of Amsterdam. After that I worked within healthcare, housing problems, stuff like that. But at my last job at the Dutch Red Cross I felt the need to change again because I missed my creativity, and I studied at the Photo Academy in Amsterdam. In the following period I worked as a photographer by myself and I went back to my old love, working with young people. And at the moment I have the ideal job. I work with young people and photography. I'm working now in the field of youth psychiatry at Curium LUMC. It means that it's an academic center. And we treat young people, mostly girls between 13 and 18 years old, and they have all disorders like depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, suicidal intents, and a lot of participants have autism, ADHD, borderline, or some kind of special cocktail, that all the things that I talked about, and all of them have problems with emotional regulation. The core treatment is based on Dr. Linehan's dialectical behavior therapy. I will shorten it out to DBT. In this presentation I cannot dive deep into this, but when you see on the internet there is a lot to find about DBT. We offer in our day treatment various forms of therapy that connect to the principles of DBT. And I will explain a little bit about it because you need it when we talk about the photography. In 2020 I started to work with DBT and therapeutic photography. Young people use a lot of images and I felt that we needed to connect more with that. And sure, we needed to improve it, filter out the errors, but now I'm proud to say that we weekly have a phototherapy moment with the group and we follow the DBT cycle of 24 weeks. Different themes, different assignments we give to the participants. For example, the assignments, they cover themes like emotions, personal relations, how do I look at myself, what are my personal boundaries, and so on and so on. I will guide you through the pillars of DBT and you experience that not my words will touch you, but the photos will touch you. All pictures are taken by the participants, and to top it all off, one of the participants is showing their own pictures. Mindfulness involves paying attention to non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. With each pillar of the DBT I will show some pictures and just be silent so you can watch. Emotion regulation is about changing unwanted emotions and how to regulate emotions effectively. This stress tolerance is about learning how to tolerate intense emotions in crisis situations without making things worse. Interpersonal effectiveness is about improving and maintaining relationships with other people and also self-respect. I'm very happy that I can introduce Ryan to you, and they will tell about the picture themselves, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm 17 years old. I've been on the unit for 9 months, and I'm gonna talk about what I learned in Photo Voice. For this assignment, for Photo Voice, we needed to make pictures about ruminating thoughts and helping thoughts. The first picture is about the ruminating thoughts, and I made a picture of a mirror because in a mirror you see your own reflection, and honestly my own thoughts and my own mind are the most disturbing for me and my mind. All my negative thoughts and things I think about myself also really comes to life when I'm home alone, and the picture you see my living room, and that's why I made that picture. The picture for the helping thoughts is of my cat because he loves me for me and he doesn't judge me for who I am, because he just wants my love and attention and accepts me for who I am, and I want to think like him and also accept myself. So I'm gonna talk about the picture with the dog and the flowers. The flowers are blooming already, but it's not spring yet. So the flowers represent my goals and positive things that are coming my way, and my process that is going well, but I'm not there yet. And also I walk the dogs for a nice lady, and I wasn't at her house yet. I wasn't done walking, and that also represents that I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm gonna talk about this picture with the sunrise, and on the picture you see it's pretty dark still, but there is a little light, and that represents my state where I was a year ago. It was pretty dark for me. It was very chaotic. I didn't know anything about myself, and I didn't have any good coping skills or skills in general. But the little light you see in the picture represents Curium that helped me learn more skills, and Photo Voice also helped me to practice and think about how to use those coping skills. And because of Photo Voice and Curium, I learned, well, not yet, but I am starting to accept myself more, and I have more self-awareness, and I know more about myself and what to do when I don't feel so well.
Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it and maybe found some inspiration. Thank you Neil Gibson and Ruth Davey for hosting this fantastic event. And of course thank you Ryan for sharing your work and thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thanks. That was really, really interesting. it's just nice to see that framework being used as well. And I think Ryan was really interesting as well when she was presenting her photographs. So thanks very much for that. Some nice comments in the chat as well. So we'll come back to that and we'll invite any questions. But I want to go into Natalie's presentation next. So we're going to go over to Australia now for the next presentation. I shall just set this up. Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay. So Natalie Hunfalvay comes to therapeutic photography with a background in professional, editorial and commercial photography. She's now the founder and director of a small arts organisation in Australia called FOCAL. I'm going to be careful how I pronounce that with my Scottish accent, that works at the intersection of the arts, mental health, well-being and advocacy. FOCAL designs and delivers evidence-based therapeutic arts programs with a focus on photography to a diverse range of groups, including community groups, health organisations and schools. So I will let you enjoy her video and then we will open up for questions.
Hello, my name is Natalie. Welcome to my presentation on different approaches to therapeutic photography utilised through my small arts organisation called FOCAL. Before we begin, I'd like to take the time to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, as well as share our diversity statement. We acknowledge the living culture and spiritual connections to the land of the Dharawal and Gundungurra people and all Aboriginal nation groups that have connections to the area on which we live and work. We acknowledge that Wingecarribee is remarkably placed at the intersection of many tribal lands. We recognise that traditional custodians have occupied and cared for this country over countless generations and celebrate their continuing contribution to land and culture. FOCAL is committed to accepting and celebrating all forms of diversity and aims to create spaces where everyone, particularly minority groups, can be seen and heard. FOCAL welcomes and celebrates all people, irrespective of ethnicity, lifestyle choice, faith, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Before getting started, I also wanted to extend a very warm and big thank you to both Dr. Neil Gibson and Ruth Davies for inviting me to speak at this symposium. I've had the honour of learning from both these amazing individuals and feel very lucky to have been able to find them and learn from them. Briefly, a little bit of background on me. So I'm an Australian with a background in commercial and editorial photography. However, I've always had a strong interest in documentary photography, psychology, personal development and mental health. A few years ago, I had become increasingly dissatisfied with the type of work I was doing, and after my second child, decided I needed to make a change. I really wanted to do work that I felt would be making a positive contribution and difference in people's lives, and wondered how I could use my existing skill set in another way. I had in the past run some photo voice workshops in schools, although I had not been specifically trained in therapeutic photography or photo voice, but had really loved doing that kind of work. So I did some further research into this, and through that research came across therapeutic photography and the work that Neil was doing at RGU, and also the work that Ruth was doing through Look Again. I went on to do the official facilitator training with Photo Voice in the UK, along with Ruth's Look Again facilitator training, and completed the full postgraduate certificate in therapeutic photography at RGU at the end of last year. Out of all this training, I saw so many possibilities and applications for these different approaches. I found that as I began to talk to different types of organisations and community groups, there was also a huge interest in the work and the approaches. I decided to set up my own small arts organisation that could offer all these different approaches rolled in with my existing photography knowledge. Focal was born, the name being a combination of focus, a nod towards photography, and folk, leaning towards community, diversity, and being inclusive of all people or all folk. I wanted to really focus on making the programs for everyone, especially minority groups. So the theme became about mental health, well-being, advocacy, and using creative expression through therapeutic photography tools. In this presentation, I wanted to give an overview of 3 programs I have run since starting Focal back in 2022 that show the different and varied applications of therapeutic photography. This slide just shows the homepage of my website where, if you're interested, you can go and have a look and find more details about the work. So this first example is called Voices from the Pandemic, A Young Person's Perspective. This project was funded through the New South Wales Government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Headspace Wollongong, which is the Australian National Youth Mental Health Organisation, wanted to deliver a therapeutic photography program for young people in the region. Focal was contracted to design and deliver a program that incorporated therapeutic, mindful and participatory photography techniques for clients of the space. The overarching aim of the program was to give young people from identified risk groups an opportunity to learn new skills in photography, and through these skills express how they had been personally affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The program was delivered for a small group of young people, 18 to 25 years old, from diverse backgrounds over a period of 9 weeks, and it combined lessons in visual literacy, introductory photography skills, therapeutic photography, photo voice methods, and some mindful photography techniques. The participants were given the opportunity to explore themselves, their relationships, and society in a new creative way, using the skills they had recently learnt in the program. Strong connections between participants were made throughout the program, and afterward there was a public exhibition held in the region, and a zine was also created by the young people that showed their work, their photography, their writing, and also some additional artwork they created around the photographs. As you can see on the screen here, this slide shows a couple of examples of their work and also outlines the techniques and the key objectives. I'm just going to go forward though and show you a little clip from a video that was created after the program, in which some of the participants give some feedback on their experience.
So I think I've come out of this program with a kind of new love and appreciation for photography. I think before it was just something that I would just take photos and not really think too much about them. But now I'm kind of thinking about deeper meanings in photos that I take and photos that I see. And also I'm more aware of lighting and composition and just implementing certain themes into photographs that I'm taking.
This program was very helpful. It allowed me to connect to the community around me. And as someone who's moved here only a few years ago, during quarantine and lockdown, I was unable to make these connections. This program was also very helpful in giving me another outlet to express myself and let myself be heard through visual mediums such as photography.
I think using photography is a really helpful way for me and for a lot of young people, especially because it's always accessible. If inspiration strikes at any point, I think it's really, really cool that we can just take that and use our cameras to create something really cool to express how we're feeling in the moment.
Being involved in this program has impacted me in a very positive manner. I would like to say that I quite enjoyed being around the people who were also in the program. It was fun. It allowed me to feel a bit more confident in myself and in expressing my thoughts and opinions. It also gave me something quite fun to do and made me feel connected to my community and my peers.
So I think I've come out of...
Here is just an example of one of the participants' work from that program, the final images that she created for the exhibition, along with her captions. The second project I wanted to highlight was run for an organisation called Pop-In that supports women experiencing domestic abuse. The goal was to give participants an opportunity to reconnect with community and peers who have had similar experiences in a safe and supportive space, creating a sense of connection and belonging for many who have been very isolated. In addition, the program aimed to encourage those in need to connect with local support services to assist them in an ongoing manner with services such as counselling, housing support and legal services. Through the program, we aim to equip the participants with new tools in creative expression. They could continue to use these beyond the program to support their overall mental health and well-being, as well as really, I think one of the real highlights with this program was the strong connections that were made between the participants through their shared experiences. And I know that many of those relationships have continued afterward. So this program did use some visual literacy and introductory photography skills as well, but was primarily focused around therapeutic and mindful photography techniques. It didn't have a photo voice aspect as the previous one did. These are a couple of examples of work from the program and also some comments from the participants around what they got out of the program. The final one I just wanted to share with you is the project called We Speak. This was an advocacy campaign for transgender youth and their allies. In Australia in 2022, there was a bill proposed to Parliament called the Religious Discrimination Bill, and it aimed to strip transgender youth of many rights. Surrounding this was a lot of media hype and disinformation around issues related to transgender youth. The goal was to produce a social media campaign that highlights positive messaging and real-life stories firsthand from trans young people in response to the above negative messaging that was being shared. The project ran over 2 group sessions and a series of one-to-one sessions where the young people got to choose one ally, a parent or a friend, to participate with them in the program and be able to share their story about what it really means to be transgender and how they're really just normal kids like everyone else who want the same and deserve the same rights. This project was really had a strong focus on photo voice techniques, and it did use a little bit of visual literacy and therapeutic photography at the beginning. These are the final tiles that were used in the project and in the campaign. There were over 30 final images and captions that were designed in this way and shared across social media sites, websites. And a zine was also produced and taken to Parliament House by the young people, by a few of the young people who participated in the program, and delivered directly to MPs to help strengthen the opposition to the bill. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, 2 very, very interesting presentations and great to see the focus on younger people as well with these techniques of therapeutic photography. And I mean, I know that these techniques got wide appeal, but I was curious to hear from either Natalie or Andre. Do you think this technique works particularly well with younger people? Or is it just because that's naturally where your work has taken you, that you find that these techniques are being used in those settings?
Yeah, I can say, Neil, I think it's a question I get asked often as well. Is it just for young people? And I think it definitely suits young people for lots of reasons, and especially that kind of teen, like sort of 14 and up. It seems to work really well. But equally, the women's program I did was really really successful as well, and that group got a lot out of using the techniques. So I think it's probably more, I mean, at least in what I've done so far, it's more about maybe the willingness and the openness of the group, and also that group connection. And I think if there's a common experience that they share, so whether it's, you know, like I said, the women who had all experienced domestic abuse, it was something that really brought them together. And I guess then, like, the age wasn't really so relevant. So yeah, that was in my I think, yeah, it definitely works well with youth, but it can work well with anyone, really.
Yeah. Andre, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just was thinking, because with me it started that I was working with young people, and they have to talk so much with the psychiatrist, with other therapists in other therapy forms. They're using so many words, and I was just thinking why we don't use images. And I was really inspired by Finland. I cannot pronounce her name, but she made beautiful pictures from girls in nature. And then I was searching further on the phototherapy and stuff like that, and I discovered more and more. And then I transferred it to because we are working with DBT. So I was thinking, well, they have to talk about DBT, they do mindfulness, why can't they do images? So, and that's how it started.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
If only we had somebody from Finland here that could help us pronounce that name, Rula. Was it the most beautiful girl in the world? I think that was what the book was called.
The name is Minna Savolainen.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it is a beautiful book.
The most beautiful girl in the world.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Ula. Natalie, there's a question about how long your programs were and how long the sessions were.
Yeah, sure. So they're all a little bit different. For example, that the one that was for the COVID, you know, in response to the COVID pandemic, that was, I think, 9 weeks. And then the women's program was about 6 weeks. It's pretty much, and the sessions, I was just reading the question here. It was also about the sessions, I think. So usually I try to do about 2 hours for a session. But, you know, they vary a little bit, but roughly that. It pretty much, I find, always just comes back to the funding that's available. You know, but 6 to 8 weeks is a good time. But yeah, it really all depends. I've got one coming up later in the year that doesn't have much funding, and we're going to run it as a 4-week program kind of, and hopefully use it as a pilot to then apply for more funding for a sort of longer ongoing program. So yeah.
Cool. And I guess this last question oh, sorry.
Can I just add, actually, that I think what Natalie's just said there is really important, that, you know, ideally courses, you know, courses are generally considered to be most beneficial if they are at least six weeks long, 6 to 8 weeks. But yeah, I mean, we've also run courses for less, especially online, like as a response to the pandemic as well. But yeah, so much depends on funding. But the 2 hours is generally considered to be really appropriate for younger people, and then older people can sometimes do slightly more, but we very rarely run anything for more than 2.5 or 3 hour sessions at a time.
Yeah, thanks. And so Natalie and Andre, the last question from Paulette there is about, is there any evidence that young people have then gone on to share their positive experiences to support others?
Just trying to think. In my experience, well, I guess one of the not that I didn't show this program in my presentation, but one of the young people who did a program that I ran last year, she was, I guess, she was also studying at university and wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do, and she did. It was more a therapeutic photography program, not advocacy work. And then she did decide she wanted to go on and become a peer worker. So I don't know about directly, sharing her therapeutic photography work, but possibly in the sense of wanting to go and support other young people.
Yeah.
Maybe Andre has had more experience in that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, what I see a difference in sharing outside the group that we're working with and sharing inside, because when we're talking inside in the group, they feel so much enlightenment sometimes that when they see a photo and everybody's thinking different about it, they cannot imagine how it's possible that you can see it's different than I do, and that is so helping for them to exchange visions and to see, hey, somebody thinks different than me, and that's okay. So maybe I'm not as weird as I think I am, and that's very positive in a group.
Totally. Yeah.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that just what Andre said made me think of that. Definitely within the therapeutic group, that sort of peer support is very strong, and I've experienced that in all the different programs I've run. So definitely.
Yeah, I would echo that too. Yeah. Thank you very much.